50 years ago, in late June of 1956, Elvis Presley was debuting his act. He went on the Ed Sullivan Show. He was on the Steve Allen Tonight Show. This guy was selling $75,000 worth of single records every single day of the year in 1956 dollars. Can you imagine that? So he is a cultural phenomenon, and I lived in Memphis, Tennessee for a while, and I used to go over to his house, Graceland. I used to hope they'd come out and want to play racquetball with me or give me a Cadillac like he used to do to people, but he never did. He was busy inside eating some peanut butter and banana fried sandwiches, which are very good, by the way. Anyway, welcome. Clint Bellows with my pal Braden Larson. This is The Answer, Omaha's conservative talk. Building a brand here, building interest. I love you folks. I'm your uncle. I'm your cousin. I'm the guy that shows up without a date to all the family functions. I'll be there July 4th, trying to find a free meal. The bottom line on it is we get to the bottom of things here, at least we try. We try to take on, in hopefully a winsome and hopefully not too unchristlike way, the big issues of our time, and to be able to kind of speak truth to power and truth to idiocy, which is what it has really begun to evolve to. And so welcome so much to the show. I don't know how you feel. I think I do. You're just wondering, where are we going? As we play the Merle Haggard song, are we headed downhill on some highway headed for you? You have to wonder. We'll play that later. You'll be able to understand the lyrics when somebody else sings them. Where are we? Yesterday we had so much news that was really so predictable. And, it boggled my imagination. I was just numbed by the whole thing. I've been struggling myself. Clint Bellows here. Oh, by the way, you can find me in SoundCloud.com by searching The Clint Bellows Show. And you can listen to the show live on your device by looking for us on The Clint Bellows Show on YouTube. We're streaming live every day, 4 to 6. Send me an email, theansweromaha.com. My website is theclintbellowshow.com. And parenthetical comment on that, I'm down 4 pounds, okay? I have no idea why, okay? But I ate some vegetables yesterday. Could this have anything to do with it? So the bottom line on it is, I've told you folks, we've got an election coming up in about 20 weeks. And I'm hoping that some real transformation takes place in this country with respect to who leads it and where, and what my pant size is, so to speak. So these are key. We need somebody. Well, I guess either party looks like they're going to be, the nominees will be wearing pants, so that's not going to be a problem, come to think of it. Donald Trump had a comment on this whole terrorism thing, and I just want to ask you to listen to it. And if you have an opinion, call me at 402-498-5685, 402-498-KOTK. Tell me, do you think Donald Trump is off the reservation by making this comment today?
So we can't do waterboarding, which it's not the nicest thing, but it's peanuts compared to many alternatives, right? So we can't do waterboarding, but they can do chopping off heads, drowning people in steel cages. They can do whatever they want to do.
And, I got to tell you, I'm exactly in his camp with that. Aren't you really? How important is this country to you? How important are your children, your grandchildren, your friends, your job, your own safety? How do you put that out there? One of the things that strikes me, folks, is, I don't know, maybe I'm, one of the occupational hazards of the kind of thing I do is that you're thinking about it all the time. And when things are so overwhelmingly dark in so many different areas, it can be a little bit daunting, okay? And I've been thinking about that fact on so many different levels over the last few months, that I look at the fact that Hillary Clinton, the Benghazi report came out yesterday. We haven't even gotten to the big story yet, of course, but Benghazi came up again. And, of course we know this woman was incompetent, probably criminal, certainly dishonest, and lied about her entire schedule, activities, and conduct during that critical period of time back on September 11, 2012, when the compound in Benghazi, Libya, which, by the way, the people in that compound, including Ambassador Christopher Stevens, who was supposed to be a friend of the Clintons, he issued, and others in the compound issued 600 requests for additional security in Benghazi. All 600 were ignored. And those 4 men died. And of course, her comment was, what difference does it make? And when she was finally, somebody began to call her on the carpet a little bit relative to her truthfulness and all this. And Braden, I think you've got a cut from some of her comments about people questioning her veracity.
Talk about leveling with the American people. Have you always told the truth?
I've always tried to. Always. Always.
Some people are going to call that wiggle room that you just gave yourself.
Well, no,
always tried to.
No, I've always, you're asking me to say, have I ever? I don't believe I ever have. I don't believe I ever have. I don't believe I ever will. I'm going to do the best I can to level with the American people.
Well, these are the 2 of the best liars probably in the history of the planet. And, of course, our own Bob Kerrey, who was a senator from Nebraska in the 90s, war hero, former governor, pretty good all-around guy, liberal, but we won't hold that against him right now. He had met with Bill Clinton on a particularly crucial budget issue in 1993, and he came out of the meeting and he said, Bill Clinton is an extraordinary liar, a very, very, very good liar, and you have to believe that his wife tends to mirror that image. As you know, we've been doing a segment on this show every day. I can't remember the name of it, maybe.
And now for today's edition of Keeping Up with the Clintons.
We could do part of that right now as far as I'm concerned. The truth of the matter is that she came out yesterday. I wish we could find this clip. It's somewhere. We haven't been able to dig it up, but I heard it on one of the news channels or the cable shows like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was watching this stuff, and she comes out and says, people have been telling these lies about me for 35 years, and they are all lies. Every single one of these things are lies. There's no truth in any of it. And you're just sitting there asking yourself, this must be the most lied about person in the history of the planet. A lot of Jews and Pharisees and Sadducees and other assorted malcontents in Christian Jerusalem and Israel made up lies about Jesus Christ, which of course we know what the outcome of those lies was. He was innocent. We know that, faultless. I don't think she fits into that category, and I don't know of anybody who gets lied about or talked about as much as she does. You've heard the whole thing of where there's smoke, there's fire. You tell me, folks, is there any fire to this smoke, and does it bear any, and I'm saying any, impact? If those folks of you who are out there who listen to me and you think this guy's some wacko right-winger, Christian guy, parochial point of view, he doesn't realize that everybody does it. That's just the way politicians are. That's the world the way it is. People have been lying about this stuff forever. Nothing ever changes. There might be some truth to some of that, but I will tell you, I believe that Bill and Hillary Clinton have elevated this, along with people the likes of Barack Obama and a bunch of other people in the nation's capital. I believe they've elevated it to a real art form. And we'll get into that in a little bit. It's nuts out there. We're going to be talking with our good friend Christopher Harris in just a moment about a couple of key issues. Later on in the show, I'm going to try to tackle what happened in Istanbul yesterday. You've heard about it. It's tragic. And the media reaction to it in this country is nothing short of really, for me, hard to comprehend. And I'm talking about not only the lame streamers on ABC, CBS, NBC, Communist News Network, MSLSD, and the others. I'm talking about our own Salem guys like Michael Medved and even Dennis Prager, who are, great guys. I don't want to be guilty of being too critical of them. But I heard Prager today say he just doesn't get this. It's this level of evil or this level of hatred or whatever. And I guess what I'm going to try to talk about later, maybe you can help me with this, is what is it about this that he doesn't get, and why is it important subjectively, intellectually speaking, Dennis? Why is it important for you to get it? You getting it means nothing. It is existential, Mr. Prager. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt brought back his naval attaché right before the start of World War II and our involvement there, he asked this naval attaché, "What can you tell me about Hitler that will help me?" The naval attaché said to him, "Mr. President, there's only one thing you need to know about Adolf Hitler." And the president said, "What is that, Commander?" And he said, "How to defeat him." That's what we need to worry about. We don't need to ponder what were on the minds of these three idiots that attacked Istanbul. Let's just stipulate they're warped, and let's just say that there's no chance for them to come into the realm of rational thinking, or we're not going to sit down like we did with Ho Chi Minh and negotiate an end to the Vietnam War with these people. They are not going to come to the conference table. That's not what they're about, okay? So let's quit pondering these things. Let's quit fiddling around while Rome burns, and let's figure out what is it has to be done. And quite candidly, the answer is amazingly simple. We'll be talking about that in just a moment. We're going to take a call. Sean, you're on the line. I want to get your call in, and then I got to go to a break. Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing, my crazy uncle?
Listen, I'm hanging around. We're going to be doing our conservative wiener roast on what we decide, July 24th, Braden. So I hope you'll be there for that, and we're going to start promoting that. That should be fun. And
I sure will.
It's free, and we will have 100% all beef hot dogs and some beef tongue there, and other things. So, but fire away. Tell me what's on your mind today, sir.
How about this? How about common sense? How about we get some politicians with common sense? I believe in waterboarding. Hell, waterboard them. They don't treat us, our prisoners any different. They'll chop our heads off faster than,
I don't think anybody ever died from waterboarding, as far as I've been
told. Exactly.
It's not pleasant, okay? There's a lot of things in life that aren't pleasant. And one can argue about what kind of information you get from somebody who's being tortured, if that's what you call it, or waterboarded, or whatever it is. But then again, you're not going to get any information if you don't do something. So,
exactly.
I mean, anything this person says is going to register a response one way or the other, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's what we need. We need that turn, that toughness. Bring back the Cold War stuff.
Well,
I was raised around that. So.
Sure, and you're a gyrene, and you're a man's man, and the truth of the matter is, we got to step up to these things and do the worst first, okay?
Exactly.
And we got a president, and I'm so tired of this guy. I mean, anymore, I really ask, who cares what this guy? I mean, he got up and pontificated today. They have our full support. They have this. They have that. They have nothing.
They got nothing, no.
If they had our full support, this wouldn't have happened. For the United States government, Sean, to say they didn't know this was going to happen, that is an amazing intelligence failure at this point.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Exactly, and just makes you wonder what.
They're not trying to find anything. They don't want to find anything. And,
exactly.
And I don't know whether. I've debated till I'm crazy myself whether Obama's just a complete nincompoop, incompetent ideologue, or if he has a truly deep, nasty, almost devil-driven spirit to him. I'm not sure which is correct. One thing I know, he's not a patriot. He doesn't care about my family. He doesn't
Nope.
care about me. And,
No.
And, we're going to haul some more Syrians in here. That makes a lot of sense.
A lot of sense. Exactly.
Anyway.
I don't want them here. I don't want them here. So as far as I'm concerned, keep them where they're at, and let's take care of our own selves.
And Sean, we're a little short of time right now, but if you call back tomorrow, I'd like to find out more about your situation that you're going through. And if you can check in with us tomorrow, that would be great.
I sure will. Thanks, sir.
All right, Sean. That's one of our great listeners. Sean, the time's 4:21. Place is the Clint Bellows Show here on The Answer, 94.5, 1420 AM, Omaha's Conservative Talk. We're going to be back with Unhyphenated America's Christopher Harris in just a moment.
If you've ever wanted to see for yourself the sights of the early Christian church, here is an exciting trip. This is Alistair Begg inviting you to join me this fall on the Footsteps of the Apostles Mediterranean Cruise. Beautiful accommodations and an opportunity to encounter together the sights of the early church. Stops in Rome, Jerusalem, Athens, and so much more. Plan on joining us.
For more information or to reserve your cabin, visit theansweromaha.com.
Larry Elder sees 3 hills for Trump to get over to get to the White House.
Donald Trump has fired his campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski. Clearly he sees that he's in trouble. He's now realizing he needs to start listening to professionals. That solves one problem, but there are 2 more problems. What are they? Second problem are the Republican ninnies. And the other problem, of course, is the media hates Donald Trump.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 6, right before Steve Dace at 8 on 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
Experience Lincoln Black Label at Woodhouse Lincoln in Omaha. The Lincoln Black Label was designed to impress those with impeccable taste for fine art and culture. The Lincoln Black Label line includes the 2016 Lincoln MKX, 2016 Lincoln MKZ, and the 2016 Lincoln MKC. Discover luxury at Woodhouse Lincoln today on 66th and L Street in Omaha.
Michael Medved explains to liberals the way taxes work.
By drug testing those with itemized deductions over $150,000, this bill will level the playing field for drug testing people who are recipients of social programs. One of the core differences between the left and the right in this country is people on the right tend to understand that when you talk about money that people are earning, that money is their money. It doesn't belong to the government.
The Michael Medved Show, afternoons at 2 on 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
When school is out, the Summer Food Service Program is in. The USDA's Summer Food Service Program offers free summertime meals to children ages 1 through 18 at hundreds of locations throughout Nebraska. To find a summer food program near you, call the USDA Hunger Hotline at 866-3-HUNGRY. That's 866-3-HUNGRY. Or text food to 877-877 to find a summer food program near you. Sponsored by Nebraska Department of Education and aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
The Clint Bellows Show, 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
To do it today here on Omaha's Conservative Talk, The Answer. I've got a daily briefing sheet in front of me from all over the world. I could have had, among others, Sebastian Gorka, Robert Spencer, Richard Minotaur, Max Boot, on and on and on, people from around the world who are experts on what happened yesterday in Istanbul. But the truth of the matter is, the reason I'm not covering that first heads up is because it's commonplace now. This is no longer, of course, it's extraordinarily tragic and it is newsworthy, but it's not a surprise. It's not uncommon. This is the way of the future under Barack Obama and probably Hillary Clinton, and the way that the West has chosen to ignore the truth about where it is. Okay? We instead spend our time, if you're a Girl Scout troop and going to Yellowstone this fall, you might not have to go out to the geyser to see Old Faithful. You might just walk in the bathroom find a guy standing there. Okay, that's how ridiculous things have become. Okay, we're busy figuring out who goes to the potty where and what the equal rights implications of that are. And the president, Christopher Harris, has, of course, done the pro forma thing today, and he's offered the complete support of the United States to the people of Turkey. What do you think of that, sir?
Well, what does that actually mean? I mean,
yeah,
exactly. I mean, when they say the complete support of the United States, in what? In helping to stamp out radical Islam? Is that what he's offering? You know, one of the things that we've seen, especially from this president, Clint, is his lack of willingness to, well, first of all, he doesn't even want to acknowledge the problem. So, you know, a person who won't acknowledge the problem is a person who certainly will not try to resolve the problem. You have to acknowledge that there is a problem and call it by its proper name before you can even attempt to resolve the problem. And the more moderates within Islam, they have no incentive whatsoever to come out in support of us to try to help stamp this out, because they know how people are the more violent extremists in their midst, and they know that there will not be any American support to come and help protect them when the inevitable happens, which is the extremists will come after them for, you know, getting in bed with America. So, but what incentive do they really have?
Right. It's you know, the truth is that we are not respected around the world anymore. Let's set the playing field properly here. Power and aggression abhor a vacuum, and we've seen that over and over and over again. And you know, I was thinking, Christopher Harris, I wonder what he thinks of Obama's take on this. But at this point, I don't know about you. I'm kind of over the guy. I mean, I hope he can't do too much more damage. I hope we don't have some shenanigans around the election. Other than that, he's just a gigantic mistake in American history. Hopefully we can overcome the malevolence of his terms of office. But at this point, we really need to be focusing on how we're going to deal with this, don't we? And I mean, I was just telling the audience before we brought you on board, we got some very smart people on Salem, Michael Medved, Dennis Prager, Hugh Hewitt, Larry Elder, on and on. We've got a well-educated, experienced cadre of talk show professionals here. But other than Mike Gallagher and Larry Elder, I'm shocked. I guess I can't say that's another word I can't use anymore, but I guess I'm chagrined or perplexed, whatever, by how they get on radio every day and they say how they can't believe that some guy would be running through the Istanbul airport and blow himself up. Why would anybody do that? Why would anybody want to kill these people? And to me, that is a question that is beyond moot. That does not matter anymore. Really, there's only one question, isn't there, sir? And that is, how are we going to deal with this? Can we deal with it?
Well, it can be dealt with. And remember, you're dealing with a extremist. You're dealing with a totalitarian mindset. And some people will say, well, violence never solves anything. And I say, the hell with that. That's not true. Because when you're dealing with violent totalitarians, you're not going to change them by, love and hugs. At the end of the day, if you try to hug them, the only thing that's going to happen is that they're just going to, stick you in the back, sever your spine as you're trying to hug them.
Right.
Or they're going to stab you in the gut as you try to go for the hug. Right. What has to happen, and if you look at the Japanese, they, under their emperor, they had a similar type of extremism. And in fact, a lot of people are unaware of this, but, remember after we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, and they didn't immediately surrender. In fact, when the emperor wanted to go ahead and surrender, there was actually a cabal among some of the leading generals who were going to kill the emperor. Remember, the emperor of Japan was a god.
Yep.
They were going to kill the emperor of Japan because he was willing to surrender. So, yes, things got ugly, but when you use overwhelming force, that's how you deal with it. That's it. Point where you have to use overwhelming force to get them to come to the table. All the nice words, all that, it's just a waste of time.
Yes. I appreciate that. We're having a little bit of a hard time with the audio here. I'm going to go to a break, sir, if that's okay. If you can stay with us, maybe we could find another number to call you on or call you back or something. I'm having a very hard time. And these are important thoughts that Christopher Harris is communicating. I want to make sure the audience can hear them clearly. So we'll take a quick break here at 4:31, and we'll try to correct that problem. Be back in a moment.
Tune in to The American Way with Ian Swanson on Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. on 94.5 FM The Answer.
There is so much that's screwed up about politics today.
The American Way with Ian Swanson.
The great thing about medias like talk radio and others is that they're going to give it to you straight, where you can come to find the answers.
Only on 94.5 FM The Answer. Tune in to The American Way with Ian Swanson, Saturday and Sunday, 1 to 4 p.m.
The name of the show is The American Way with Ian Swanson.
What does the word moving mean to you? Is that packing up a truck and heading from one home to another?
Load them up.
Maybe moving brings you thoughts of interstate traffic. Or it could be that simple act of getting out of bed. Hi, I'm your local State Farm agent, Grant Mooseman. When my team thinks of the word moving, we know summertime is huge for that. You've heard of the discount double check, and it's something I strongly encourage you to do. Whether you want to review your coverages for just that new house or new car, a life coverage for yourself because of that new baby or grandchild, or all of them, my team works closely with you to understand your needs. Identify what's right and make sure you have the best options at the best price. With all the moving in our lives, isn't it time to stop? If even just for a few moments, make sure your insurance is truly working for you. Call or text me today at 402-909-5050. Again, that's 402-909-5050.
It's coming in July. This station's hosts are heading to Cleveland for the biggest news event of the year, and we'll be there for 4 hard days and nights. The GOP fight for the White House has been long and hard, but finally, can they get their act together and take on the Democrats and Hillary Clinton? Can they take this splinter party and make it work? Yeah, it's going to take a lot of work and a few hard days and nights. Join us as we present the GOP National Convention coming July 18th on FM 94.5 AM 1420. The Answer.
The new Pray With Me prayer app is connecting thousands of Christians around the world in experiencing the power of prayer. Connect your Facebook friends and mobile contacts to share requests. See a map of those praying around the world. Set reminders to pray throughout the day. And join prayer groups. Visit praywithme.com to join this worldwide yet personal 24/7 Christian prayer community. Receive prayer. Pray for others at praywithme.com.
The Clint Bellows Show, 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
All right, we are back. The money is always involved, that's for sure, and Trump's got some problems raising it right now, apparently. We're back with Unhyphenated America's Christopher Harris, and the premise upon which he founded this organization. This, among other things, you can find him at unhyphenatedamerica.org, and there's some brilliant writing on this site. You really need to be looking at it. And I'm switching gears. I'm sorry about the phone problem we had, Christopher. I don't know what's, we're out here in the Great Plains. Who knows what's going on? But hopefully we can hear you a little better now. I look at what you've tried to do, and I was listening to a major poll that was taken among African Americans just last week, and 61% of African Americans say they are not treated fairly in the United States, and most say race relationships here will never be good for them. And so that to me is a pretty discouraging viewpoint. You're African American. I'm not trying to point that out, but I mean it does inform, perhaps on some level anyway, your take on these results. What is it we're not getting done here in our relationships with African Americans? And certainly there's a lot of racism in this country, enough on all sides that none of us can stand up and be very proud of the whole thing. At the same time, it's not unfair to say we've made quite a bit of progress. And when I think about my relationships with people, including you, I don't view you by the pigmentation of your skin, and I know you don't view me that way either. Okay, and I just look at it as kind of a, when do we get beyond kindergarten on all this? And are African Americans justified, 61% of them, saying they're mistreated in the United States? What's the alternative, sir? I know I'm rambling around, but I'd really like to get your opinion on this.
Well, Clint, I always, first, I don't refer to myself in the term of African American. My father's interesting thing, I think I might have told you. My family's done a little bit further research, and before I was telling you that we've been able to trace our heritage in this country to 1813, but now we've actually been able to go back to 1752. Wow. I think it's a relevant point to be able to say that, hey, there's a whole lot of people walking around in this country who call themselves just American, and their family's only been here about 100 years, and my family's been here over 250 years now.
Congratulations,
so
sir.
I'm about as American as you can possibly get. That being said, the question I always want to ask, I have to go back to the questions that are asked by that dude who I refer to affectionately as that dude, Thomas Sowell. He asks these three questions when people make statements like that. He says, compared to what, at what cost, and where's your hard data to back that up? But let's just focus on the compared to what question. When you ask people and they say, well, that blacks or African Americans, whatever they choose to use this term at this time, and that they're not treated fairly, compared to what? I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I would always tell people, listen, whenever you run across a leftist-minded person, my first thing is never accept their premise. Make them define things. Make them come with a hard definition. And one of the problems with the left is that they don't like that. They don't like hard definitions. They like to use things like, terms like institutionalized racism. See, because if you say, hey, Bob is racist, well, then we can address Bob. We can do something about it. Bob works with you, and Bob is doing or making racist statements, then we can address Bob. But when you sit there and say, well, it's institutionalized racism, well, who is that? How do we address that? Yep. Well, you can't. So what that does, it allows you to sit there and to occupy this, a moral high ground based on the idea of this nebulous, nefarious, institutionalized racism, the quote-unquote evil white man. We're not going to say it's any one man, right? It's the evil white man who nobody can put their finger on. And so that allows you to continually claim the victim status without having to address anyone in particular so you can resolve issues. They're not interested, long story short, they're not interested in resolving the issue. They have zero interest in resolving issues.
So that is my suspicion as well, and it's a sad one for me. I look at you can name the usual suspects, the Al Sharptons and the Jacksons, and there's a ton of them in the Congress and in the press right now and so forth. I actually heard.
Hold on, Kent, I'm sorry, Clint, but
go ahead.
What about the young man? And I just kind of expressed something on the Unhyphenated America page about this young man, Jesse Williams, who gave this speech at the BET Awards.
Unbelievable.
And I'll tell you, this is what for your listeners, this is what I had to say about it. I said, dude, your mother, well, actually said your mama, right? Your mama was Johanna Chase. She's about as whitey as they could be, because he was complaining about whitey.
Right.
She's about as whitey as they could be with her Swedish self. He admits she's a Swedish descent. I said, just out of curiosity, when you go and visit your Swedish grandparents, you walk in the door saying, hey, whitey. And the funny thing is, the whitey that you ate so much helped to make you, and they pay you. And I said, listen, it's old white men like your maternal grandfather who helped to make you. It's old white men like Sumner Redstone, who owns BET, Black Entertainment Television, because he owns Viacom, which owns BET. But he's the one who allows you to have a forum to say how much you hate whitey. It's old white men like Ben Sherwood, who's the co-chairman of Disney Networks, which owns ABC, which is the network that Grey's Anatomy is on, where he portrays a doctor.
Right.
It's old white men like Rob Corn, who's the director and producer of the TV show Grey's Anatomy. It's old white men like Tommy Hilfiger and Kenneth Cole, who own these clothing labels that paid him to model their clothes. And by the way, since Jesse Williams is advocate with Black Lives Matter, it's another old white man, George Soros, who helps to fund the Black Lives Matter activity.
Excellent.
So, you know, I'm not really trying to hear any complaints from him about Whitey when he's a tool of Whitey.
Well, and you know the other thing, this is just so typical of Hollywood and the mentality. Justin Timberlake, of course, gets on his Twitter account and attempts to do some things to reinforce and underscore and approve what Williams had said at the Black Entertainment Awards. You would think that a lot of people would be sympathetic to his being sympathetic. That was not the case at all. They came out and attacked this white honky, saying, "You're trying to appropriate our culture. Who do you think you are?" And then Timberlake comes back on and said, "Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to appropriate your culture," whatever that means. Okay. And I don't know. It just it goes round and round and round. I think your observation is the right one, and I think that I used to be in an organization many years ago, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. Maybe you took part in some way. It's called Promise Keepers. It was the brainchild of a guy named Bill McCartney, who was a football coach of Colorado, and the idea was, we're going to knock down the racial walls that exist between black, white, yellow, pink, whatever men, and we're going to create a common effort toward fellowship in this country. And one of the major one of the major pillars of that organization was racial reconciliation. And I can remember having a bunch of pastors that I knew and people in the seminary world and otherwise tell me, and this goes back almost 20 years, well, it does go back 20 years, it's over 20 years, tell me there would never be racial reconciliation in this country for all the reasons you've been talking about and some others. I don't know. That just to me is, and you make it right. When you talk about Bob, everybody can identify Bob, okay? And everybody can say Thomas Sowell says this, J.C. Watts says this, Kevin Jackson the other night on one of the Fox shows says this, Christopher Harris said this on European television. But when you get down to institutional racism, that's the old Obama straw man. That's the racist guy out there that nobody ever identifies who's got all the objectionable behavior. And so I think you make an excellent point there. I don't know where we go with that. But at this point in time, I guess the question also from that perspective is, as you said earlier, 61% of people in this poll, and it's a very accurate poll typically, say they don't think they're ever going to get a fair shake. So I guess that's just kind of unfortunate. One of the things that I think Medved was the guy interviewing this one gentleman, and he talked about the fact that historically the church, the evangelical church for African Americans, the Baptist church in the South, other churches, evangelical free churches, have been a focal point for a lot of very positive social development, and a lot of great things have come out of that. And this guy came out and said, "No, that's not the case anymore. The Black Lives Matter movement has taken that all over. The young people in Black America are not that interested in the church anymore." And I guess my question for you is, I know that's a gross generalization, but do you have just a take on that? Do you have an observation? Is there hope that the Christian young people in this country, white and black, can move together and we can have something approaching a more palatable relationship with each other, or are we just doomed?
Well, there is hope, and I think we have to be careful with going too much into what's said out there in social media or out in just the media in general. What happens is that on an individual basis, people tend to get along pretty well. It's the whole group dynamics is where the problem comes in. With the group dynamics,
I think that's true. Yeah.
You end up having you end up having people kind of buying into the whole thing of us versus them, instead of this whole idea of I'm an individual, you're an individual, and let's talk.
Yeah.
I think that's what ends up happening.
I'm with you. Hey, I appreciate your taking the time to come on with us. I know it's getting dinner time back there, and I got a feeling your wife's got something exciting planned for you, and I certainly don't want to be in the way of that. I look at, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at these numbers, and I'm looking at the fact this Benghazi panel came out yesterday, and I'm astonished by the fact that I'm pretty sure that there'll be very little repercussion toward Hillary Clinton after this. After all the other things that she's done, she got up yesterday and said, people have been lying about me for 40 years, okay? and we've got 125 scandals we're doing on the two of those grifters, okay? There's an awful lot of people out there that are lying about them, apparently. That's all I can come up with. There is some good news, Christopher. Quinnipiac poll, which just a few days ago had Trump down 6 or 7 points, has him even today. So maybe polls don't mean a whole heck of a lot right now, but they're certainly moving around, aren't they?
I'm so over all these polls. I honestly am. I've gotten to the point where I don't even really pay attention to them anymore, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where to trust. They're disingenuous in so many cases. What is the exact question that's being asked?
Right.
Those are the kind of things that need to be addressed.
Hey, what's your one final, and I'll let you go. You got a wild card VP choice for Trump today that you think might lend some strength to his ticket? Is there anybody on your mind you're looking at positively, and if so, who is it?
You know what? A lot of people talk about New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. I think somebody that might help out more would be like Alan West.
Yes. Alan West, the giant, in so many respects. I'm a big fan. And
he would help out from a foreign policy standpoint and the military standpoint.
Yep. He's an hombre. He speaks the truth. He's from Florida. I got nothing but respect for that guy. That's a good call. We'll talk further about it. Hey, thank you for putting up with our phone problems, and you have a great evening. Thank you for the call, sir.
All right. Take care, Clint.
That was Christopher Harris, founder, executive director, publisher, editor of unhyphenatedamerica.org. And that's a website worth looking at because basically the premise there, of course, is that color doesn't matter. Imagine that, okay? Here's a man that says we can get beyond this. We don't have to judge each other by what color our skin is. We can actually look at each other and we can relate. We can be friends. We can argue. We can fight. We can love. We can do whatever. And it doesn't have to be based on how the sun reflects the color of your skin on the Earth's surface, which, if you think about it, is pretty friggin' shallow and ridiculous and an idea that has outlived its usefulness hundreds of years ago. I think what I'll do is I'll take a quickie here, and then I'm going to come back. We're going to talk about Donald Trump's possibilities in this Veep stakes. Who should be the vice presidential candidate of the Republican Party when we return?
When we decided Omaha needed another talk station, we did some serious research and discovered something striking. You love to be informed. You want talk shows that give you breaking news and what to think about it. You actually think those other stations have gone to fluff talk, even liberal talk. So this station decided not to make that mistake. No fluff here, no liberal talk here. We actually reflect what you are already thinking. It's why we're Omaha's conservative talk. 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. Dennis Prager believes the GOP is missing a huge opportunity.
That has been the great failure of the Republican Party, not to talk about the damage the left does. They talk about individuals. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, doesn't mean a thing. If you support the left, you are supporting the damaging, perhaps irreparably, of the society. I know you mean well, and it doesn't matter.
The Dennis Prager Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Michael Medved at 2 on FM 94.5 AM 1420. The Answer. You found the first FM talk radio station in Omaha. The other guys are stuck on AM. We have that too. We have both. Introducing FM 94.5 and 1420 AM. The Answer. Now reaching the entire metro of Omaha. Some dentists report we're getting into the fillings of their patients. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but you get the idea. This is the one radio station Omaha can count on for breaking news and stimulating talk. Omaha's conservative talk. This is now 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. The Clint Bellows Show. 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
She was afraid to come out of the locker. She was as nervous as she could be. She was afraid to come out of the locker. She was afraid that somebody would say,
2, 3, 4, tell the people what she wore.
it was an itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini that she wore for the first time today. An itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini. So in the locker she wanted to say,
2, 3, 4, stick around, we'll tell you more.
She was afraid to come out of the
Do you remember those days?
So a blanket around her she wore. She was afraid.
Today, she'd be afraid to be in the bathroom or the locker room to begin with because there'd probably be guys in there with her. You know, we've been saying over the last few days we were going to get into this discussion of bikinis and modesty, and we're going to do that. I don't know if I've got all my paperwork in front of me to cover it right now. But the truth of the matter, we're going to be talking about this. And this may seem like an awfully tame thing to even bring up, but summer has arrived. It has, hasn't it? And with it, renewed questions about modesty into the inbox. So this pastor who comments on social issues. So Pastor John, can you speak to the issue of modesty regarding clothing at the pool, especially bikinis, and speak to pastors and leaders? Should they take time to directly address the topic? And if so, how do you counsel people through this minefield? And he says, here is the most important thing to say. It's impossible to come into a church or a youth ministry or a school, say a Christian school, public school, that's permeated with immodesty and fix it with rules about modesty. There is a place for rules, for guidelines in families and schools, in youth ministries, in churches. But if you try to turn that thing around, that institution, whatever, if you try to turn that around by starting with the rules or guidelines, it will not accomplish a Christ-exalting, grassrooted, spirit-empowered, faith-sustained, Bible-informed, joyful, free culture of modesty. It won't, and yet that is the goal. And why do I bring this up? You know, it's interesting to me because, you know, we have virtually everything goes now. I mean, we're now teaching in the Washington public schools, we're teaching 5-year-olds about gender options. They don't have enough to think about. It's not hard enough being a 5-year-old in this country today and trying to figure out where things are going without looking at, gosh, was I born in the right body or not? I can assure you I had a lot of things I was probably trying to figure out, okay, when I was in the kindergarten class over at Walnut Hill School, or Braden was, whenever he was. I didn't need to think about my sexual orientation. I was kind of vaguely aware that girls were different from guys. That's about as far as my analysis took me. So, you know, we're in a place where if you think about the last 50 years, do you remember a show out there, folks, called I Dream of Jeannie? Do you remember that show? That starred Larry Hagman as an astronaut. And the reason I remember it as well is because there was this psychiatrist, this Air Force psychiatrist on that show, who was played by an actor named Hayden Rourke, who was a noted character actor. His character's name on the show, Dr. Bellows. Okay, that was the guy's name. They used to drive this poor guy nuts, okay, because obviously Jeannie was able to do anything and everything she wanted on that show with the exception of one thing. Braden, do you know what that was? She was not allowed to show her belly button in her Jeannie costume. The censors cut that out, okay? That is the mid-1960s we're talking about here, folks. That's 50 years ago, okay? We are now in a position to say that has effectively been overthrown, and yet there are Christians out there who are still trying to fight the good fight and trying to say there are some elements of modesty that really ought to, at least ideally, exist in our environment. And wouldn't you agree that they're right about that? I throw this out because I'd like to get your take. You know, we're on the Clint Bellows Show. This is The Answer, Omaha's conservative talk. You know, we're in the SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Twitter at Clint_Bellows. You can call me 402-498-5685. 402-498-5685. 402-498-KOTK. What is modesty? Is there any place for it in our culture anymore? Have we evolved to a point where we're just simply androgynous? Is there no sexual difference between a man and a woman anymore? According to the United States government and the Obama administration, one of his many executive edicts, otherwise called executive orders, women are now known as human beings with vulvas. Okay? So Nebraska has a vulva volleyball team that's a national competitor. Okay? We have the boys swinging program football team. Okay? We don't call anybody what they are anymore. We've got a different code for everything. Okay? The thing is, you know, Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner, appears on this week's Sports Illustrated cover as Caitlyn. Yuck is the word, okay? 40 years ago, I can remember sitting in an apartment. I was just getting started in the business world, had a little color TV. A bunch of us were sitting around watching Bruce Jenner win the Olympic decathlon at the Montreal Olympic Games in 1976. Does anybody here remember that beside me? And I'm thinking about how far into the cultural toilet this thing has come. I'd like to know what you think. I know what I think, and I know what this minister thinks. And I can assure you that by and large, the issue of bikinis and modesty is long since been passed upon by our culture. Okay? We're swimming in permissiveness. Is there a way to bring some sanity back to this? Should we even try? Is this the Christian thing to do? Is it an issue that I should quit wasting my time and breath on and yours? I'd be curious what you think. If you want to venture an opinion, you can send me an email on this. My take on it is that we're pretty close to the bottom. I'm not sure we're there yet, but if you are a Girl Scout troop or a Little League team, and you're in Yellowstone Park, or you're in Yosemite, or you're wherever you might be this summer, you should know that the United States Department of Interior and the National Park Service, in order to comply with Mr. Obama's demand, okay, now says anybody can go do anything they want anywhere they want to go, okay? How do you feel about that? Don't you at least feel a little bit weird, a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit like you wish we maintain what we've been doing with our bathroom habits for the last, 3 million years? I don't know. Tell me what you think. We're going to come back on the intersection of faith and reason and talk about this and some other important things. We're moving up on the 5 o'clock hour. We're asking some important questions today. We haven't even gotten to the Veep Stakes or the Istanbul attack. We'll be tackling those things as well as Hillary in our second hour. Back in a bit.
.94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. Translator, 94.5 K233CO, Omaha. And 1420 KOTK, Omaha. The Answer.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters. The death toll is now 42 in the terrorist attack on Istanbul's Ataturk airport yesterday. Chilling footage from security cameras shows one attacker detonating his suicide vest after being shot by police. Authorities are pointing the finger of blame at the Islamic State terrorist group. Colonel Chris Garver, chief spokesman for the U.S.-led coalition fighting Islamic State militants, says the group wants to strike in places like Turkey, though it's unclear whether it was behind the airport attack.
We know that Daesh wants to project power and conduct attacks outside of Iraq and Syria. They want to use their funds to conduct global attacks, really start global chaos.
And on NBC's Today Show, Michael Leiter, former head of the U.S. Counterterrorism Office, warns travel security is a concern this holiday weekend.
In the U.S., what we will likely see, even over this holiday weekend, is a greater move to push that security perimeter out. But people still have to recognize at those choke points, there are real security vulnerabilities.
The leaders of the United States, Canada, and Mexico are united in their defense of free trade.
With Donald Trump vowing to undo trade agreements and British citizens voting for Brexit, President Obama and his North American counterparts pushed back. They argued that more commerce with the outside world is inevitable and will deliver benefits.
The integration of national economies into a global economy, that's here. That's done.
The President and the Canadian and Mexican leaders spoke during the North American Leaders Summit in Ottawa. Greg Clugston, the White House.
3 missing crew members from the 2 freight trains that collided head-on in the Texas Panhandle yesterday are presumed dead. The 2 BNSF railway freight trains were on the same track when they collided. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 285 points, the Nasdaq rose 87, the S&P advanced 35, and crude oil up to $49.53 a barrel. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Bill Bennett here to tell you about Augusta Precious Metals. What if you could store your IRA or 401k where you can see, touch, and hold it in person in the form of physical gold and silver coins? I know I would, and you can't do that with stocks. With the Augusta Gold and Silver IRA, you can transfer retirement savings into physical coins and store them where you can actually see them. Free shipping, 0 management fees, and Augusta pays all upfront costs. Getting started is absolutely free. Rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau, enjoys a 98% 5-star customer satisfaction rating with TrustLink.org. Trust Augusta. Call toll-free 1-855-222-5882 now for your free guide to Augusta Gold IRAs. Call toll-free 1-855-222-5882. That's 1-855-222-5882. Or visit AugustaPreciousMetals.com.
Here's the townhall.com business brief.
Another winning day on Wall Street, the second in a row, as the market continues to recover from an earlier Brexit-inspired slump. Wall Street's key averages closed sharply higher today. Traders got some encouraging news on American consumer spending. Commerce Department says spending rose 0.4% in May. That was on top of a 1.1% surge in April. The typical American adult using media for a full hour a day more than just last year, that according to the latest Nielsen research. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average soared 285 points. The blue chip index ending the day at 17,695. The Nasdaq Composite Index closed 87 points higher, and the S&P 500 was up 35 points. With business, I'm Rich Thomason.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters.
94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. Weather. Here's Matt Duncan.
Here's a look at the forecast for Wednesday night. We'll wait for showers and thunderstorms to move in from western and northern Nebraska late night. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies and a low right around 64. A 40% chance of thunderstorms early on Thursday. Otherwise, partly cloudy into the afternoon. High 83. The wind will be nearly calm. Friday, though, looks nice. Sunny and a high near 80. That's a look at the forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Duncan.
This from the National Weather Service. A severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for west central Shelby County and northeastern Harrison County until 5:30.
Del Walmsley explains what happens when the government gets involved in your money.
Cycles have normal restrictions upon them. And if it was a pure and open marketplace, you could count on Cycles to keep us going in the right direction in a safe zone forever. But my friends, when the government gets in and gerrymanders the world, Cycles are not pure.
The Del Walmsley Radio Show. Weekday mornings at 10 on FM 94.5, AM 1420. The Answer. The Clint Bellows Show. 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
Nothing can separate, even if I run away. Your love never fails. I know I still make mistakes. You have new mercy for me every day. 'Cause your love never fails. Oh no, no, no. You stay the same through the ages.
You know, he never changes. If your relationship or mine has changed with him, the question is, who moved, right? And inevitably, you can look at yourself and come to that conclusion. I know I do. And but he knows we're imperfect. It's amazing. It's called this factor of grace. And you hear the song Amazing Grace, kind of tend to look at that, and maybe take those words for granted. But the fact that we have unmerited favor with God is pretty amazing, isn't it? And it's important that when we look at all the darkness out there, and believe me, there's too much to report. You're inundated with it. You want to turn it off, okay? God, nobody wants to face. You've got enough things to do in your own life here at the intersection of faith and reason, don't you? I mean, you've got your kids, you got your job, you got a boss maybe bugging you, you've got a spouse that there's some issues there, maybe there's a health problem, money problems, could be anything. And so you look at all these things, you say, well, there's nothing I can do about any of that. And I have literally many nights just sat in my room with the lights off and saying, I don't know what to pray to God about. I mean, I know I need to. Maybe this is a time to just sit there, put my hands in the air, and just try to listen to whatever it is he might be trying to say, and cut through the fog. And I'm not talking sophisticated seminary and advanced Christian stuff here. I understand that, among other things, Reverend Dobson, who, of course, founded so many great Christian organizations, Focus on the Family, James Dobson, has made the comment that he thought that Donald Trump was a baby Christian, okay? And, of course, all the boo birds come out and they make comments about that, and they try to find holes in Trump's story about his relationship with God. And the truth of the matter is nobody knows one's relationship with God except God and that person. And it's not for us to be in the job description to try to figure out, who's what and what's what. But the truth of the matter is that if Trump is, in fact, a baby Christian, or a baby Jew, somebody with a moral center, somebody who's governed by God, how can that be anything other than a good thing, folks? That's one of the questions I've got today here at the intersection of faith and reason. We're so happy to be joined by our 660 AM KCRO Teach and Talk listeners. Thank you so much for being with us. We're trying to just integrate a worldview and try to put some sanity together in this incredibly crazy situation that we find ourselves in. One of the people who I call upon to help us with that is a good friend, a former Omahan, still many friends in this community. The guy, he bailed out on us, went to Florida. We're not happy about it, but we talked to him anyway. Have you had dinner down there yet, Andy? I'm sure you have, haven't you? Don't you people eat at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon down there?
Well, we do when we go out to eat. However, when my life partner, my wife, makes dinner, quite frankly, we wait until after you and I have had our Wednesday conversation.
And you can still eat after that, so I'm glad to hear that. And Carol does a great job, I know, in so many respects. So welcome to the show. We're talking, of course, to Andy Greenberg. I've been reeling today, frankly, from all the news that's out there. It's insane, of course, by definition. the things that are happening in the world. I hope that you, as you always have in the past, bring some different perspective, some ray of hope, some sunshine to an otherwise, I think, kind of sad day today. Welcome to the show, and what are you thinking today, Andy?
Well, I don't think it's a sad day. I think if we do what you're suggesting that you've done, and we just focus on the things that are bad, then in fact it's going to be a bad day. We can't escape world events. But I always question, why do we have to focus on those events? Why do we have to focus on the negative? Just earlier, before I came on the air, you were talking about troubles with the spouse, troubles with the boss, troubles with this. You know the good news? If somebody has a boss, that means they are gainfully employed. If somebody has a spouse, that means that they are married. Now, there is nothing that is 100% perfection, even trial by jury, because it's always subject to appeal. But yet, when you have a spouse, when you have a boss, and you look at some of the positive sides of things, then you begin to say to yourself, you know what? Everything's good. What is it that I can do to make it better? I'm not necessarily escaping from the bad things in life. I'm taking what I have, and I'm looking to the heavens, and I'm saying, you know what? I'm about to start a prayer. And you mentioned earlier about prayer. But there are really 4 parts to pray. We can start our prayers by saying, Lord, give me this, Lord, give me that, Lord, give me this, Lord, give me that. Now, if our children started to ask us for things just like that, we would probably, and we have in the past, decline them. But if we start off by saying, Lord, no matter what religion you are, I praise you for all the great things that you've done for this earth, for me, for people in the past, and for people today. And I give thanks for all the blessings that you bestowed upon me. And I want to ask forgiveness for the things that I've done wrong to you and wrong to other people. You know what? Now that I feel good that there's a God, that there's a way to say thanks, and I've asked for forgiveness, now I can start to ask for things. And that's one of the keys that we always need to remember when we look at the news, Clint.
Well, and of course you have properly brought me up, upbraided me in a very positive way about my negative attitude, and I have to say that one of the byproducts of reporting the news day in, day out, and looking at events in the world is sometimes it's pretty hard to look beyond what you see and to, in fact, embrace what you just talked about. But it's also, that's the mature and that's the important thing to do. So that is good input. And you had, you and I trade texts, we trade different things, and I know that you send me some things. We're going to go to a commercial break here in a minute, but you've got the following things down: rowboats and long-distance phone calls. So,
and we'll get to those after the break.
Yeah, we're going to go to a commercial break. We're with our good friend, business consultant and image consultant and all-around great guy and thinker, Andy Greenberg. We will be back in a moment at the intersection of faith and reason to visit with him about rowboats and long-distance phone calls. Back in a moment.
Steve Deace promises to always give it to you straight.
Remember when we all ripped the left for rooting for a recession under George W. Bush? We called them unpatriotic. But what do we look like when we troll through polling numbers following terrorist attacks? Well, this will be good for us. Are we people of truth or not? If you want me to lie to you, I won't. If that's what it takes to advance in this business, I'll do another business.
The Steve Deace Show, weeknights at 8, right after Larry Elder at 6 on FM 94.5, AM 1420. The Answer. The word independence started out as a whisper in this country in the 1700s. Saying it out loud came with some harsh punishment. But over time, the whispers got a little louder until eventually people were shouting it from the rooftops. Today, we take our freedom for granted. But this weekend, we need to pause to thank those who started with just whispers. Because what has resulted is the best country on planet Earth. Happy Independence Day weekend. From 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. Hugh Hewitt gives you one more reason to vote for Trump.
Think about Hillary Clinton's server. The reason she destroyed it, the reason she wiped it clean, the reason why she tried to keep it from people. Everybody gets this. It was hacked. It was hacked in real time. They've got everything that was on it. Clinton's the real risk. If we want to stop her, we can't dump Trump. You can't have her as president. The Russians own her.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Weekday mornings at 5, right before Mike Gallagher at 8 on FM 94.5, AM 1420. The Answer. Mike Gallagher is looking for a united GOP to take on Hillary.
If Paul Ryan, if all these squishy, timid Republicans, the NRA, some fair-minded media types, if any of those factions would be in Donald Trump's corner, maybe he'd be up by 10 points right now. Who knows? Who knows? Democrats have no trouble uniting.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekday mornings at 8, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on FM 94.5, AM 1420. The Answer. Larry Elder wants the president to answer one question about his view on guns.
Just one time when Obama holds a press conference after a shooting and talks about the need for further gun control laws. Just one time. I'd like some reporter to raise his or her hand and say, Mr. President, do you have any idea how many lives are saved because people were able to get a firearm and prevent an attack?
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 6, right before Steve Dace at 8 on 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. Clint Bellows. 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
I just can't believe where my life was at. All that I know is my heart was broken. I don't ever want to go back. Ain't no explanation how I saw the light. He found me and he set me free and he brought me back to life. Blame it
on the transformation.
Change down to the car. This love is real and I can't sit still. But my name's not shame no more.
Welcome back to the intersection of faith and reason here at 94.5 FM, 1420 AM, 660 AM. Omaha's Conservative Talk, where we've got an ongoing conversation with our good pal Andy Greenberg. We do have a phone caller. George, you're on the line for Andy. And George, welcome to the show. Thanks for the call. And July 24th, are you good to go?
I'm good to go, Clint. July 24th is a fine day for me, my brother.
All right, we're doing the conservative weenie roast on Sunday, July 24th. I think we've got the place just about picked up, but we're talking about 4 to 7 in the afternoon. It's a Sunday afternoon and should be a great time. And, George, you're one of the masters of ceremonies of this austere event. So I just wanted to let you know that, okay? And, and we could throw some Hebrew nationals in there. I don't care. I like Nathan's, but whatever you think. And, we might even go with some beef tongue. That's we're going to try to help Braden out a little bit. He's on a high-protein diet. So but anyway, we're talking with Andy, and I got to be honest, Andy kind of convicts me a little bit because I have felt pretty down about this stuff. I mean, I'm just sitting there watching this, and I'm going, and then I'm listening to some very capable guys like Michael Medved and Dennis Prager and on and on and on, Rush Limbaugh, all these guys, and they're sitting around saying, God, we just don't get why people would want to blow themselves up. And I'm at a point of saying, George, I don't care where they're at anymore. That's their problem. The truth of the matter is they're continuing to want to kill people. And, the only question I've got about it is what can we do to stop it, not what motivates them to do it. But anyway, that's my own little soliloquy. Do you have a question for our friend Andy, George, or a comment in general?
Yeah, I do. I say, they won't say radical Muslims or radical Islam. Guess what, folks? Take a look around. This isn't radical. This is what they're taught. This is what their book says. Their book says convert or kill. You're either with us or you're against us. If they might be on occasion stuck charging you a tax to stay alive if they have to put up with you. But this is not about, radical Islam. We're talking maybe upwards of 80 to 160 million people willing to pick up arms and kill you. Hunt you down and kill you just because you do not believe the way they believe.
That's statistically accurate, according to most experts.
Yep, we have two candidates. One has absolutely no moral compass, no right, no wrong, everything's here. The other one might not be the greatest person in the world, but listening to him speak, you know he understands the difference between somebody who wants to kill you just because you're you and somebody that's just, oh, this was an accident. He didn't mean to set the suicide bomb off.
Right.
I mean, you do not make excuses for people that want you dead. They want you dead for a reason. You're non-Muslim. And if you can't see the difference between good and evil, you have no moral compass to judge yourself off of, as one of our candidates has.
Right.
We don't have a choice. This isn't a choice. I would go with a guy who's made a couple mistakes in his life, maybe not the greatest Christian in the world, but he knows the difference between right and wrong.
Andy, you get a chance to do some political commentary here with George. Feel free.
First of all, let me state that, along with everyone else, I am anti-terrorist. I'm anti-people blowing themselves up in order to create a message. I like the way Gandhi did it. I like the way Martin Luther King did it to bring about change. With that being said, these particular individuals have a very strong conviction that their way is the right way, that their way is the way to save the world, and they feel so dedicated to that they are willing to do anything, including killing themselves and the other people with them. Now, that is totally the wrong way to do it. History has proven time and time again that when you take a peaceful approach to getting change in the world, that will be impactful. And if people reject the change direction that you're trying to go into, then that becomes a message by saying, hey, we're not interested. Now, the same thing is true in the political arena that we have today. Yes, we have one individual who has a very, very strong conviction of the way to fix the United States, the way to fix the world, and he has hit millions and millions and millions of Americans with his message. Is he pure himself?
I really do, yeah. I agree.
Is he pure himself? Absolutely not. But he is strong enough in his message to move forward. Then we have another individual who, if we believe a lot of the reports, also has a true conviction in the way to change the world, and they've made changes, but not necessarily the legal and right way to do it. So I admire both of them because they are taking the nonviolent way. They are appealing to people's emotions. They are appealing to people's sense of reasoning. They're appealing to a proposed set of logical steps moving forward. That's the way the world should continue to impact change.
You know, I got to tell you something. I respect Andy Greenberg tremendously. I've come to the conclusion, and George, you can comment on this as well. We're not going to negotiate anything with these people. We're not going to go to Paris like Ho Chi Minh did with Henry Kissinger in 1973. And we're not going to come away with a peace treaty. We're not going to do what John Kerry tried to do, I think in good faith, with the Iranians last year. This is not going to end well. And, you know, as some of FDR's advisors told him when he asked, what do we got to do about Hitler? And one of them said, there's only one thing you need to know. And they said, what's that? And that's how to beat him. Okay. And it's pretty clear, with all due respect to my esteemed guests, that these folks are not interested in a rational approach to things. George, do you have a follow-up comment?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to deal with people that even amongst themselves in different facets of Islam, they can't even get along with each other, let alone a Catholic, Protestant, Lutheran, Baptist. You know, you don't have a chance. A Jew, you might as well forget it. You know, you better, get to Antarctica and seal up the borders there.
Again, my regard for Andy Greenberg in terms of his theology and his commitment to his faith and so forth. I mean, we don't agree on everything politically or anything else. So many good friends don't. But I look at the plight of Israel over the past since 1948. And I look at the tremendous burden these people have had to bear simply because they were different than the other indigenous people in that part of the world, and just the tremendous carnage visited upon the Jewish people and the Israelis. For what? Okay? And I don't see that ever ending by negotiation or peace treaty or let's have a kumbaya moment and let's figure out who loves who here. Andy, I guess I understand your idealism and your hope, and you're just a profoundly optimistic. You're insanely positive, is what I'd say. Okay, and that's a compliment, and to your maturity and your sense of humanity. Unfortunately, the guy running through that airport yesterday who was shot fell, and rather than surrender, he blew himself up. Okay, and basically Michael Medved's going, I just don't understand that. And I'm saying to myself, after 9/11/2001, I mean, what is it you don't? Why do you feel you need to understand that anymore? It's beyond understanding, I guess, is my take.
Well, Clint, you need to understand it so that you can get into these people's minds, understand what their root influence is, and then correct that root influence so that they do not in any event change. So you can change their thought process. And I want to go back to some of the comments about Israel.
We've got about a minute, by the way. We've got about 40 seconds. So and George, you're on the line too. So
I got you. In spite of Israel's plight, I'm going to suggest we don't use the word plight. Look at what they have accomplished in the little time that they have been together on Earth.
No question.
All the contributions that they have made. You know what caused that?
God.
Optimistic thinking. And God.
You are God's chosen people. You may have heard. Andy Greenberg, we're going to have to talk next week about some of your subjects. George, thanks so much. July 24th. And we'll be back in just a moment. Time's 5:27, back at 5:30 to talk about Donald Trump and what he needs to do in just a moment.
Michael Medved wants more class from our elected officials.
You can't control the event. It happened. It's horrible. It's bloody. It's nightmarish. It's evil. It is all those things. But does the response to it have to be so stupid by our most prominent politicians? I mean, does President Obama have to take advantage of this occasion to just rip Donald Trump?
The Michael Medved Show, afternoons at 2, right before Clint Bellows at 4. On 94.5 FM, 1420 AM, The Answer.
It's been called the greatest libertarian show on earth, attended by Donald Trump, Steve Forbes, Glenn Beck, and the most brilliant conservative minds today. It's Freedom Fest, July 13th through the 16th at the Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. This year, come hear Senator Rand Paul, author George Gilder, Judge Andrew Napolitano, and more. And don't miss your chance to win $25,000 in prizes organized by Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington. Register now at freedomfest.com and save $100 by using the code SALEM, all caps, at freedomfest.com.
Fish Fest Omaha, Nebraska's largest Christian music festival, returns to Ralston Arena this year on Saturday, August 13th. If you have a group of 12 or more that would like to attend and save some big money, we want to hear from you. Hi, I'm Kelly Lewis, Fish Fest Group Sales Manager, and we are making it easier than ever for your group to attend Fish Fest. Whether it's just purchasing your tickets to Fish Fest or a complete package which includes tickets, food, and a Fish Fest t-shirt, we want your group to have the best experience. And with every 12 tickets purchased, you receive the 13th absolutely free. All you need to do to reserve your group tickets now with no money down is visit fishfestomaha.com and click on groups. That's fishfestomaha.com and click on groups. We hope to see you and your group at Fish Fest on Saturday, August 13th.
It's an emotional time when a family realizes that loved ones can't stay at home anymore. They need to find a place that feels like home, and the care is the kind of care that the family themselves would give. Via Christi is that place. I'm Teresa, Director of Nursing at Via Christi. We offer assisted living for seniors needing extra help, as well as customized care with special memory units for those with dementia and Alzheimer's. From the daily Catholic Mass, meals, activities, and health care, we at Via Christi care for your loved ones like we would care for our own. Visit viachristi.com to learn more.
Dennis Traeger has an argument for the never Trumpers.
The Democratic Party now is so left. Hillary Clinton has moved so left. That 4 more years of left-wing domination of this country has put us on a course, or we're already on the course of a true abandonment of what America stood for. America is an idea. It is not a geographical entity.
The Dennis Traeger Show, weekdays at 11, right before Michael Medved at 2 on FM 94.5, AM 1420. The Answer.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Turkey's leader says his country will overcome terrorist groups. President Erdogan says terrorists are trying to impede Turkey's ambitions, including becoming one of the world's 10 strongest economies and building the world's largest airport. Security forces suspect Islamic State carried out yesterday's airport attack. The death toll has reached 42. Singer Brad Paisley has started a crowdfunding website campaign to raise money for flood relief efforts in his native West Virginia. The country star kicked off a GoFundMe account by donating $100,000. Paisley said in a statement that now that floodwaters are receding, it's time to pitch in. He hopes the effort will raise $1 million. Last week's flooding killed 23 people and wiped out many homes. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 285 points. More details at srnnews.com.
94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. Weather. Here's Matt Duncan.
Here's a look at the forecast for Wednesday night. We'll wait for showers and thunderstorms to move in from western and northern Nebraska late night. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies and a low right around 64. A 40% chance of thunderstorms early on Thursday. Otherwise, partly cloudy into the afternoon. High 83. The wind will be nearly calm. Friday, though, looks nice. Sunny and a high near 80. That's a look at the forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Duncan.
The Clint Bellows Show. 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
Looking in your eyes, I see a paradise. This world that I found is too good to be true. Standing here beside you, want so much to give you. This love in my heart that I'm feeling for you.
Let them say we're crazy. I don't care about that. Put your hand in my hand, baby. Don't ever look back. Let the world around us just fall apart.
And rip off the rear view mirror. If it's behind you, it doesn't mean anything. We're moving forward. We don't have anywhere else to go but up, as far as I'm concerned, with respect to the government of this country and the situation in the world again. And Andy Greenberg properly tries to adjust my attitude. I have to say, I admire people that have that kind of a positive outlook on life. And I mean, I used to read the Norman Vincent Peale books also, and I think balance is important. I think you can't really function if you're pessimistic and negative about everything. By the same token, we really need to start seeing this, folks, for what it is, and start calling it what it is, and start figuring out a way to address it directly and take it on. And we all know what it is we're talking about here. This is no small threat. And so, you know, again, we had the president standing up, and very nice suit, nice tie, not a bad-looking guy. I don't know, maybe a 44 long coat, I would guess, and pledging the support of the United States yet one more time to people who needed it before the attack hit them. We were surprised. We had no idea this was coming. How in the world, folks, how can that be possible? I don't know. I'm curious about that. You know, one of the things I talk about is, you know, the fact I've worked around political campaigns, been around a lot of candidates, a lot of people that held governorships and senators and all kinds of people. And, you know, I had a radio show a while back where the subtitle was your personal political consultant. And to some extent, that's some things that I have, in fact, done. And so I said we would create just a periodic advice column here, or a suggestion box, or whatever you want to call it, for Donald Trump. And he's about 3 weeks to his convention. One of the things that we advised him on, Braden and I, when we first started this last week, everybody's criticized him on this whole wall issue. He said, we're going to build a fence to guard against illegal traffic of firearms and terrorists and drugs and weapons and all kinds of bad stuff coming in from Mexico. And he's been universally ridiculed for that. I say, hey, let's go figure out who are the top 25 or 30 biggest, most capable building contractors in the United States, and let's put this sucker out for bid. Pick 6 of them, and let's start building that wall, okay? Let's do something tangible. You may think I'm crazy. You know what? Maybe. But I know that we were hit and we suffered the loss of 3,000 of our fellow Americans in a hideous way almost 15 years ago. And yet, with all their collective wisdom and pomposity and affectation, our leaders on Capitol Hill have not been able to find a way to protect this country in 15 years. And the only question isn't when we're going to get hit again. It's how hard we're going to get hit again and how many times we're going to get hit again, which is why I'm looking at this Istanbul thing and I'm saying, yeah, of course, the thing speaks for itself. It's hideous, it's terrible, it's insane, and you can't really say it's even newsworthy because it's happening all the time now. I mean, how many of these are you going to have to hear about before you just say, well, there was another one, okay, and I sure hope I'm not in an airport or somewhere, amusement park, where somebody decides to blow something up and a lot of people suffer. Or maybe I'm a gay guy, whatever, and what's wrong with that? I know God probably isn't crazy about it, but come on, we got to get beyond these things. Those poor people in that Pulse disco down in Orlando, wrong place, wrong time. In fact, Nebraska had many years ago an all-American lineman by the name of Jake Young, who was working, I think, as an investment bank or some kind of investment guy over in Hong Kong, and he took, after he graduated from playing with the Huskers, he was over in Jakarta or somewhere in Indonesia, and he happened to walk into a bar, and there was a terrorist attack and blew up the bar, and Jake Young was killed. Now, here's a kid from Nebraska, completely innocent. This is all just kind of, I don't know whether you call it fate, God's sovereign promise for your life or death, whatever it is. We need to get on top of this, don't we? Do you disagree with me on this? And Trump could go a long ways toward improving his position. And by the way, it looks like his position is kind of miraculously improved with a Quinnipiac poll. I don't know why they don't find an easier way to name that poll. He's pulled even with Hillary. In fact, he's up a point in some instances. He was down as many as 7 to 12 a week ago. So rumors of his political death, to paraphrase Mark Twain, are apparently quite premature. But here's where you go with this now. You're coming up to this thing, and it's clear. Trump needs about as much as any candidate has ever needed. He needs a power move in selecting this vice president to run with him, don't you think? He needs somebody that can prosecute the incredibly compelling case against the corruption, criminality, banality, deception, and stupidity and ineptitude of Hillary Rodham Clinton. Now, he can do this himself, but he's been hitting her pretty hard for a while. He needs somebody who can prosecute that case, and it ought to be somebody, by the way, who comes from a state that can bring him some electoral help because he's going to need it. And I've heard, NBC News, okay. They put their politics page out yesterday, and they said, who will Donald Trump pick as his VP? They say in their story, a man who's famous for firing people on TV is now preparing to make the most important hire of his career. Donald Trump's campaign is working to narrow down its list of possible vice presidential candidates, weighing the strengths and weaknesses of a short list of potential picks. And, of course, then they go on. Trump, who has no military or government experience, Who's that? I mean, does Hillary have military experience? Certainly not in Benghazi. There's so much news today. We're not even talking about Benghazi today. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. Government experience. Hillary has 40 years of unsuccessful government experience. But where do we go with this? And who do you think, folks? 402-498 KOTK 498-5685. Who should Donald Trump put on the ticket? Who's going to help him? Here's a few thoughts of mine. Here are people that won't help him. John Thune, who's a great guy. He's a good-looking guy. He is a Senate vet. He's from South Dakota. I think they've got 1 or 2 electoral votes. Sorry, John. We'll put you in a different spot. Bob Corker. Bob Corker is a good guy. He's the Republican senator from Tennessee. He's been an ally of Trump on the campaign. Some good things about this guy. But he's also the guy that was running the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and let Lurch, Kerry, and Obama get away with this idiot deal with the Iranians. He helped facilitate it. Without him, there would have been a treaty vote on that, which would have failed. But he enabled Obama to sneak around the word treaty, call it an agreement, and not have to have Senate 60-vote confirmation. Bob Corker's no friend of conservatives. Plus, we're going to carry Tennessee without him. We don't need him. Chris Christie, what do you think of that? If unconditional loyalty is what the candidate wants, New Jersey's governor's audition's gone pretty well, and I agree with that. Christie calls it like it is. He's a tough prosecutor. If you look at him as a VP choice, he can prosecute the public trial of Hillary Clinton, and we will report yet another set of terrible things about her again today in just a few minutes. Okay, we got 125 of them. Braden, what have we done? About 22 so far? Okay, got over 100 left. You're going to love it. Christie should be in the running. Okay, also could be an attorney general. Here's the guy I think is a great call. His name is Rick Scott. He is the Republican governor of Florida. Now, folks, you know how this works. You know the electoral map does not favor the Republican Party. You know that the Democrats start with California, New York, and Illinois, and 2 or 3 other places, probably Michigan, Minnesota, Washington, and Oregon. They start with about 130 electoral votes before the Republican guy gets out of the starting gate. Okay? You've got to make that up somewhere. My guess is Hillary Clinton is going to pick Tim Kaine, United States Senator from Virginia and former governor of Virginia, because Virginia's a purple state. It's very blue in northern Virginia around the Washington, D.C. area. It's very red down toward Richmond and the rest of the real part of the state of Virginia. She's going to pick Kaine. I don't think you'll see Elizabeth Warren might fly on our broomstick a few times and do some campaign events, or maybe she'll do a powwow with the American Indian Federation or something. But the bottom line is she's not going to be Hillary Clinton's VP. She doesn't want another woman in the room with her. I think she's going to pick Tim Kaine. And if she does, I think that probably throws Virginia to the Democrats, which then means the Republicans have to have Virginia and they have to have Ohio. Here are my 2 guys. Rick Scott. Okay. He's a businessman, came late to politics. He pumped millions of his own money into his campaign. He hails from a swing state, Florida, probably the election's most important state. Now, he's not overwhelmingly popular down there, but I think he could carry Florida for the Trump team, and they've got to do that. It's not going to be Marco Rubio. you can take that to the bank. There's too much bad blood there, and I don't think Rubio's that strong in Florida eitherwise. But the other place you can go to me is you can go to Ohio, and the player there is not John Kasich. Okay, if you need somebody to eat a burrito or a large pizza, John Kasich is your guy. He'll deliver the mail. He said so many nasty things about Donald Trump, I can't imagine. I mean, the only way they could get along is if they were a married couple with the bad stuff they've said to each other. Okay, so I think there's a guy by the name of Rob Portman who is the United States Senator from Ohio, and I think he is the other odds-on pick. Here's two others for you to think about. Newt Gingrich. Have you been listening to him on the news shows? Very firm, experienced, well-measured, intellectually qualified figure, well-known, large name recognition, and he would just beat up any Democrat in the vice presidential debate. He would be my third pick. I've heard people talk about Jeff Sessions, who's a very conservative senator from Alabama, and Mike Pence from Indiana. Nah, I don't think so. Scott Brown from Massachusetts. Nah. Scott Brown lost to Elizabeth Warren. He ain't going to bring much gravitas to the ticket. So there you have my view of this thing. There's one other guy who we've talked about, and in fact, Christopher Harris mentioned him earlier. That's a guy named Alan West. Braden Larson thinks he's a long shot. He might be in the Shaggy Dog third-party candidate arena, okay? Alan West, former military commanding officer, a war hero, a former congressman, African-American, native of Florida. I can come up with a lot of reasons for Alan West. Anyway, at 547, Mr. Trump, that's what I think. I think you need to come out with that pretty soon and start getting some cred and some buzz going over that. I've told you don't name him until the convention. I'm not so sure he shouldn't start leaking that out at some point. The time's 5:47. This is The Answer, Omaha's Conservative Talk, the Clint Bellows Show. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about Mrs. Clinton in just a moment.
Folks from around the country don't really get Omaha. Folks in New York are cocky and arrogant. Not us. Folks in LA are laid back. Not really us. We go through every day suffering through the good life. Folks who move here have to get used to it. They're not used to this lifestyle where everybody knows everybody, where they all help each other. After you've been here a while, you'll get it too. The good life. It's why we love this place and never want to leave. Just like this station, Omaha's Conservative Talk. 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
How many times do you find yourself needing a recommendation for a company to help you fix something, clean something, or provide some other sort of service? Then you reach out to your friends because you trust them to guide you to just the right company to meet your needs. The next time this happens, why not check out thefamilymarketplace.com? It's the new online directory of businesses, ministries, and churches powered by 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer. As a safe place to shop, volunteer, and worship, thefamilymarketplace.com provides you with a variety of options to help you find those organizations you can trust. And all organizations on thefamilymarketplace.com value you as an important part of the Answer family. Next time you need a referral for a company to help you, think thefamilymarketplace.com. That's thefamilymarketplace.com. The safe place to shop, volunteer, and worship. thefamilymarketplace.com.
The Clint Bellows Show. 94.5 FM, 1420 AM. The Answer.
Just to see her, just to touch her, just to hold her in my arms again one more time. If I could feel her warm embrace, see her smiling face, can't find anyone to take her place. I've got to see her again.
You know, Yesterday was a big news day, of course, with the Istanbul carnage, which we have not chosen to highlight today. We don't want to give those slugs, that vermin, any more publicity than they're already getting worldwide. If you want to hear that story, I guess you got to go somewhere else to get it. But I will say that, as you know, in 2012, we lost 4 Americans, an ambassador who was supposed to be a friend of, what are the name of these people?
And now for today's edition of Keeping Up with the Clintons.
Right, that's the name. Clintons, okay, Bubba and Hill, okay. So a bipartisan committee came out. The House Benghazi Committee on Tuesday released its long-awaited report on the 2012 attacks in Libya. And you have to understand, folks, Libya was run by a guy named Muammar Gaddafi, who was an absolute kook, okay, not particularly nice to his own people, had a weird sense of hats and wardrobe, okay. But the truth about this guy is that there was a fairly stable little desert burg over there under Gaddafi for over 30 years, okay. Reagan went in and hit him one time with some cruise missiles, almost killed him, and kind of knocked some sense to him, and the guy straightened out. But Hillary and Barack Obama thought they needed to change that around, put the Arabs in power back again in that country, the nationalists. And what we ended up with on the anniversary of September 11th in the year 2012, we ended up with a disaster over there, where Chris Stevens, who was the ambassador who had asked 600 times for enhanced security, 600 times, no response. That Sunday afternoon, the 11th, Hillary Clinton was at the State Department by all accounts. She spent 6 to 8 hours there, and they basically watched it. It's kind of like James Earl Jones and Harrison Ford in Sum of All Fears or Patriot Game or whatever, okay, where they show the terrorist camp over in the desert being eviscerated by U.S. cruise missiles and combat forces, okay, and they watch it real time via the satellite. She had the same exact capability to watch what was going on, and yet she did virtually nothing. No military units were sent to rescue these 4 brave men. And of course, 2 of the Navy SEALs put up heroic action, held off a horde for hours before they were overwhelmed. Doherty and Woods were their names. Chris Stevens, who was gay, I only mention that because that was a known fact in that part of the world, and of course that made him even more hated by certain elements in that neighborhood. They repeatedly sodomized and raped his body. They lit it on fire. They shot him repeatedly, and they drug him through the streets of Benghazi. All while Hillary Clinton looked on. Did you hear that? That isn't really even in doubt. When she had to finally testify before this committee a few months ago, you may recall her opening comment, going on the offense as always, not defending herself or trying to talk about what happened. Her comment was, "What difference does it make?" Do you remember that, folks? What difference does it make? Because she and the President of the United States, Susan Rice, John Kerry, the rest of the cadre of liars, all came out and they invented this story saying that the reason these people in Benghazi, over in the middle of nowhere, thousands of miles from the United States, they had somehow saw a amateur movie production that had been put on by a guy in Southern California who was a Muslim cleric or an anti-Muslim. I don't even know what the guy's deal was. This video, they said, incited this violence. Preposterous. is the only way to say that. Now, why is this important? Because frankly, folks, you and I both know this isn't going to mean anything, okay? She is going to skate on this. She is going to skate on the fact that she put the security of her country at risk with her very unprofessional and loose security, really negligence to the point of criminality on those emails. We know the Russians have them. We're virtually certain. You've heard Hugh Hewitt talk about it. You can't name her as president. You can't have a president that Putin owns and Medved owns. They know all about her, okay? These people have cut so many business dealings to further their own financial interests. It's a joke. And yet here's the issue. And I know I'm just screaming in the woods here. A tree's falling, but nobody hears it. It ain't going to matter to 50% of the knuckleheads in this country that are going to vote for her. This is a person without accomplishment. This is a person who just yesterday said, they've been lying about me for 40 years. It's all lies. There's not 1 ounce of truth in any of it. I'm completely innocent. Really. I don't know. It is, in fact, an act of disqualifying deception, according to Reince Priebus, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, but it won't matter. In fact, Clinton said, I'll leave it to others to characterize this report, but I think it's pretty clear it's time to move on. She said from Denver, Colorado yesterday at a campaign event. It is not clear what additional intelligence would have satisfied either Undersecretary of Management Patrick Kennedy or the Secretary in understanding the Benghazi mission compound was at risk, short of an attack, wrote Trey Gowdy, who was the chairman of the committee. The intelligence on which Kennedy and the Secretary were briefed daily was clear and pointed out Al-Qaeda-like groups, and other regional extremists took refuge in this security vacuum created by the Libyan government and its inability to take command of the security. This was a consulate. Tripoli is the capital. Benghazi would be like, I don't know, Grand Island or something, for whatever it's worth. One of the new revelations in the report was that Ambassador Chris Brown, who was killed by the fire, and it wasn't all that killed him, and swept through the diplomatic compound, was in Benghazi with the aim of erecting a permanent diplomatic post, which Hillary Clinton told him to do. So here's your choices, okay? They're not compelling. I mean, you might not like Donald Trump, but do you really think, in light of what we saw again yesterday in Turkey, in light of what we've seen throughout Western Europe, in light of the total impotence and ineffectiveness and really just petty deceit of Barack Hussein Obama, folks, is Hillary Clinton, is 4 more years of that the answer? Is 4 more years of that the answer? And tomorrow we're going to get into that. We've got at least 5 reasons we're going to be talking about why Hillary Clinton could lose the election. And right now you're sitting there going, she's not going to lose. And I guess if you're a betting man, maybe you say that's true, or woman. But the truth of the matter is things happen in elections, and they're not always subject to going as everybody predicts they're going to go. And I think this year we might be in for some real surprises. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping Mr. Trump doesn't listen too much to people trying to change him. Pick a VP in the next week or so. Get on message. Let's go after these bad guys. Thank you so much for listening to us. This is The Answer, 94.5, 1420 AM, Omaha's Conservative Talk. For Braden Larson, I'm Clint Bellows.